Hello, hello. Michael Bridgman here, and this is episode number 4, part number 4 of our 5-part series called Eisenhower's Gift, a series about how to become more productive in your life. In other words, how to get more done using less time. So in the first 3 parts of this series, we covered a number of productivity myths. So these are things that we buy into or believe about productivity that over the course of those 3 parts I proved weren't true, and that a lot of the time are the things that are holding us back from actually being as productive as we possibly can be. So if this is your first foray into this 5-part series, I encourage you, go back, watch episodes 1, 2, and 3, discover those 5 different productivity myths that we've debunked, and then come back and watch part number 4. Because here's the thing, if you don't watch the first 3 parts, my friends, chances are you're not going to get quite as much out of our deep dive on Eisenhower's Gift, or the Eisenhower Matrix, as it's called, as you could today, because simply you're still believing in those old mythos about productivity. But if you've watched the first 3 parts, then you and I know you are here because you're ready. You're ready to dive in and discover this incredible productivity tool, this incredible productivity shortcut that I've been using for a number of years, that a bunch of successful people use. And I'm going to show you how I use it in a very unique way that a lot of people who I coach and a lot of my clients really, really love. So without any further ado, let's dive on in and start with the Eisenhower Gift. Okay, so let me pop over to my screen here and let's get rocking and rolling. There we go. Okay, my friends. So we are here, part number 4 of the Eisenhower Gift. So over the course of the first 3 parts, we have dived into these 5 productivity myths, and we have debunked each one. So we went through myth number 1, accomplishing more equals more productivity. We debunked that myth. We went into myth number 2, that the real truth about multitasking. We debunked that myth. Myth number 3, maximizing every moment. We debunked that myth. And in part number 4, we dealt with, it's a different green, but that's okay. We dealt with starting with your to-do list and how that is not a productive way to get your day started. And productivity myth number 5, that peace of mind is better than persistence. We debunked that one as well. That one is going to make some enemies of people I'm close to. But in my experience, persistence wins out over peace of mind every single time. But we want to dive into now what is the real thing. So what this is all about, which is Eisenhower's Gift. So the late, great President Dwight Eisenhower, the 34th President of the United States, gave us a gift beyond just his service. He gave us something that we call the Eisenhower, so it spells right, there we go, Eisenhower Matrix. You can look this up. You know what, you guys, this is not new information. If anything, we stand on the shoulders of giants, right? So if we accomplish anything, it's because we do such. Now, the Eisenhower Matrix is a very powerful tool, though, and it's a tool that has been a massive influence in my life. Like, we're talking huge, huge difference. I'm just going to make sure I'm on my clock here, everybody. Hold on. A big, huge difference in my life because it helped me focus. It helped me choose where to put my most valuable resource, my attention. It illustrated to me and indicated to me where it was I was going wrong and what it was I was doing that was working and what it was I was doing that wasn't working. Because if you're here right now, then you are ready. You are ready to start pushing the limits of your own productivity. You're ready to start accomplishing more, having a greater impact, all while using less time and resources to get that done. You're ready to become efficient and you're ready to get on task. Am I right? You're ready to start evolving. You're ready to commit to becoming the best version of you. And if that's the case, then this is going to be a very, very, very powerful lesson. So let's jump into Eisenhower's Matrix. So the matrix is relatively simple, okay? So it is 4 quadrants. And you have different ranks here. So on this side, this is a ranking of importance. And this, so the higher this level, okay, important. So the further up on our matrix, the further up, the higher the importance level. On the other side here, we have these two directions. And this is urgent. And this is not urgent. So we call this one the urgency scale. Now, I also first encountered this in Stephen Covey's great work. So Stephen Covey, for anybody who has not read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, I have to tell you, it's probably one of the greatest self-development books on the planet. Go read it. He dives deep into this particular matrix as well. But my take on it is a little bit different because I've combined some different perspectives. But that's where I first encountered this work. So if you want another really good deep dive and good take on Eisenhower's Matrix, check out Stephen Covey's work. Okay, so we're going to label these quadrants. Quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. So this one here, right, quadrant number 1 is both I and you. So it's important and it's urgent. Okay. Quadrant number 2 is important and it's not urgent. Okay. Important. Quadrant number 3 is not important, and I and you, but it's urgent. And quadrant number 4 is not important and not urgent. All right. So now when we look at this, okay, what we're seeing here is a grid for what to do with your activity. That's what this is all about, my friends. This is about figuring out where you should be putting your attention, where you should be putting your activity, where you should be putting your focus. So let's walk through some of these elements here. So I'm going to color code these, okay? A lot of us professionals, we live here. We are constantly doing important and urgent tasks. In fact, a lot of the professionals that I run into, they spend about 90% of their time here. They're constantly dealing with both important and urgent tasks. Okay. And then the rest of the time, they actually tend to gravitate over to where is, there it is. In fact, they tend to gravitate over to here. They tend to spend a fair amount of time in here, about 10% of their time. So a lot of overachievers fall into this category. They're constantly bombarded with the different tasks that they have to get done. They're spending time dealing with clients and problem solving, and everything is immediate and everything is important and everything is urgent. They're constantly having to be dealing with problems. Us as entrepreneurs, we tend to live in this space. We tend to live right here. We're constantly working on important and urgent matters. If you have some of those people in your life that tend to be a little bit flighty, let's say, they're not really engaged too much, or they're tending to just be a little bit dismissive, or not able to hold down jobs, not able to keep discipline, none of those things. They tend to live over here. Okay. They tend to live in the not important and not urgent area. They spend a lot of their time on tasks that aren't moving the needle for anybody or anything. And then you've got sort of the worriers of the world. These people are, they're constantly worried about things. They're always focusing on what politicians are doing and the latest trends. And a buddy of mine whose wife is just like this. She's constantly focused on the things that don't matter that much, right? And she's always, always, always being focused on these things. And she's being moved around all the time by these non-urgent, these non-important urgent things. So this came up or that came up, these immediate elements. If you know, or you are one of those people that tends to be really reactionary, right? So every time something happens, you're reacting to it. You have a real hot personality that way. You probably tend to spend a lot of your time here. This is where you spend a lot of your time. Now, the last area is the one that a lot of people ignore. These are the important but non-urgent things. And we're going to color this one green because this is the area where truly successful people tend to spend a lot of their time and resources. They tend to spend it right here. These are things like physical fitness, eating healthy, having great relationships, investing time and energy into your children, getting distance from your company so you can see a top-down perspective, and spending some time on your systems and your culture and your team development. This is looking long-term at your wealth strategies and your reoccurring revenue models inside your own company or inside your life. These are the tasks that are, vision-based, balance-based. They're about discipline and establishing metrics in your life for success and achievement. And if you're a high achiever, if you want to accomplish great things in your life, then I would encourage you to spend some more time over in quadrant number 2. Now, you might be looking at this going, okay, this is all cool, but how does this really apply to me? Well, see, the Eisenhower Matrix is relatively simple, okay? You have got these different areas. So you've got quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. And as we've established here, you're getting a lot of people that are professionals that spend a lot of their time in the important and urgent areas. And then they'll tend to what we call burnout. You ever burnt out before? These people tend to be burned out and, stressed. Okay. And so what they need to do quite often is go this way for their other 10% so they can just turn their mind right off. This is the watching Netflix of the world and everything else. These people tend to be dismissive and passive aggressive, right? And not paying that much attention. They're just totally distracted. People over here, they tend to be very distracted and they lack focus. These people over here tend to be goal-oriented. They're long-term planners. And they practice balance. And we all have a little bit of each, right? But what I encourage people to do is take the Eisenhower Matrix and start to examine your week. But start with your day. So how this can really work for you, and the way I use it all the time, is I take my day and I say, okay, if I'm committed to 10 hours today, or 8 hours today, or 6 hours today of work, I ask myself, okay, how many hours? And where? How many hours and where? So if this is my Monday, I take a look back on my Monday and I might say, well, you know what? I had those 3 problems to deal with. So I wound up spending 2 hours in urgent and important, right? And I got distracted on Facebook and pursued this other thing. that was totally useless. So I spent half an hour here, right? And then wound up spending another, let's just say for easy numbers, an hour and a half on urgent matters, but they weren't really overall that important. So this is where we start. If I rack this up, this is 4 hours. And let's say I was working an 8-hour day. We'll just, you choose that it was an 8-hour day. Then I go and I'm like, okay, that means I spent 4 hours today working on non-urgent but important matters. So quadrant number 2 things. You barely see the 2 in there, but that's the 2. Okay, quadrant number 2 things. And so why do I do this exercise? I do this exercise to try to figure out where my focus is. If I'm building great companies, or if I want to build myself a lifestyle business or freedom, or if I want to build something and have an impact, right? Then this here is where I need to be focusing the majority of my time. Technically, somewhere between 25 and 50% of your time should be focused on these things. Should be focused on these things because they're the ones that change your life. They're the ones that shift big things for what it is that you're looking to accomplish. Focusing on those things. So I encourage my team or my clients to start doing this every day. This is how we start. We go Monday. Then I'm like, okay, perfect. So you're going to do this again on Tuesday. 4 quadrants. Blah, 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 blah. Do it again. Do it again. Do it again. And then at the end of the week, we go and we take a look. And we're like, okay, so here is my week. And then we just add it up. Did they work 5 days? Did they work 6 days? Did they work 4 days? I don't care. It doesn't matter. We add up how many quadrant 1s, how many 2s, how many 3s, and how many 4s. What are the hour totals? Okay, in each of these categories. So what were the hour totals? And this gives us, as a consulting team and as a coaching team, a really clear idea as to where their time focus are. Now, it requires something from you. You have to be really honest with yourself, right? You've got to be really honest with yourself and upfront. Were these urgent and important matters, or were these urgent and non-important matters? And here is a key way of understanding. So people might say, well, how do I know if it's urgent but unimportant? Because that's the biggest hiccup that a lot of people get. They go, well, how do I know, Michael, that it's urgent and unimportant versus urgent and important? Okay. Urgent and important, these are predominantly only you can do. Those are those types of tasks. Urgent, non-important, okay? These are things that if you're being honest, you could automate, delegate, or eliminate. That's your barometer. Okay, so if you're wondering, so if you're stuck over here, as most of us are, a lot of us tend to, especially as overachievers, we tend to get stuck in quadrants 1 and 2. Task-oriented people, we're doing a lot of things. Okay, so if that's the case, then you have to ask these particular questions. You have to say, is this important and essentially me only, that I can only do it, which essentially puts it up into quadrant number 1. That's good. You need to do those things. Or are these things that push comes to shove, I could teach somebody else to do, I could delegate then to them, I could build an automation for this in some software or whatever, or I could just eliminate it entirely. Okay, that's how to make those decisions. If that's the case, then the next step is to build out your aid plan. An aid plan is something that we do with our clients. It's an automate, delegate, and eliminate plan. Okay, I don't have time to get into that today, but that's what we start to do with our clients as we build out that. But this is the power of Eisenhower's matrix, my friend. And this is his gift to us, is we can start to focus on these things. And if you're struggling, if you're going, wow, Michael, I'm not sure. Like I get the concept. Okay, we'll pop back over to here, right? I get the concept. I understand this, but I'm not sure how it applies to me. Well, then go through this exercise. Okay, go through this exercise. Go through the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday exercise and watch what it is that you're spending your time on, and be honest with yourself. Be super honest with yourself about how you're spending that time. Because once you get through and you have an idea as to where your focus is going, then you can start to zero in on the activities that are right in here. Zero in on these beauties right here, because that's where you want to spend the majority of your time and your effort, is in those quadrant number 2 activities. These are the ones that give you incredible leverage and build up a massive amount of power for you and what it is that you're going to be doing. All right, my friends. So this is part number 4, is what you've been waiting for. That is the Eisenhower Matrix. That is Eisenhower's gift. This is incredibly powerful. I use this every day. If I'm sitting there and I'm going, should I do this? Is this a quadrant 1 or quadrant 2? I ask myself, or is this, no, this is a quadrant 3 activity, right? I don't need to do this. I should be automating or delegating this right now. Or does it need to get done at all, right? Those are the questions I ask myself. And yeah, every once in a while we need quadrant 4 activities. I watch Netflix. I sit down. My wife and I are big fans of Bones. We watch that show, right? So you always need that. But to me, I don't view it as a quadrant 4. I view that as quadrant 2. This is me and my wife spending time together, you know, relaxing, enjoying a show, talking about it, connecting. Those are quadrant 2 activities because they're building my relationship in my life. Now, if I was wasting 4 or 5 hours a day watching Bones, then that would be a different thing. But we don't. You know, we watch a couple episodes a few times a week as a way to connect and relax. So that is Eisenhower's Matrix, my friends, and I hope you absolutely love it. Put it to use for yourself. Grab this tool and start hammering on it. Start using this over and over and over again, because it's incredibly valuable and incredibly powerful. And that is part number 4 of our 5-part series. What is part number 5, you might be asking? Well, part number 5 is what comes next. So now that we have debunked 5 of these powerful and yet not serving you productivity myths, we have debunked those things. Now that we've gone through that, we have gone through the fact that doing more does not equal more productivity. We've gone through the fact that peace of mind, right, is not as powerful as persistence. We've gone through that you don't have to maximize every single moment of the day to be productive. We've gone through the fact that starting the day with your to-do list is not helpful whatsoever. And we've debunked the idea of how and when to multitask and why it's dangerous and why it can be useful. And now we've delved through and we've explained out the productivity matrix called the Eisenhower Matrix and how you can use it as a tool to diagnose yourself and then to start treating yourself as well, so that you can eliminate the virus of unproductiveness and start to really thrive in your life with getting more done with less effort. But what comes next? What comes next? Well, in part number 5, I'm going to dive into a very, very key problem that I see in a lot of us that are attempting to get somewhere, that want to strive for more, but we're getting bad advice, that we're getting the wrong thing handed to us. We're being told one thing and being seen another. And I'm going to dive into this particular topic because I want you to have the biggest and best impact you can possibly have. You have amazing things to share with the world, but you got to be productive in order to pull it off, because there's a lot of distractions out there and there's a lot of amazing things to do out there. And I want you to have the biggest, best life full of freedom and flexibility that you possibly can, including the biggest impact you can. So in episode number 5, part number 5, we're going to dive into what's next. What do you do after this? How do you make sure you guard yourself and safeguard yourself from some really terrible advice about productivity that's out there? And we're going to dive into that in part number 5. So this has been the conclusion of part number 4, my friends, in Eisenhower's gift. Thank you so much for joining me here. My name is Michael Bridgman. I hope you got tremendous value out of this. Click the subscribe button down below, and I will see you in part number 5. Remember, have fun, be more, and love lots, my friends. Ciao for now.